diamond ring. Not the kind of girl that needs that kind of thing. I don't need no dinner downtown. I just wanna know that you'll always be around. So talk to me nice, and I'll be your wife. I just wanna know you'll be around the rest of my life. So talk to me nice, and I'll be your wife. Play your cards right. Talk to me nice. I don't need no trip to Dubai. I'm not the kind of girl that even likes to fly. I just want to know that you'll try to talk to me nice, and I'll be your wife. If you play your cards right and talk to me nice. Alright guys, I'm kind of playing around with that one, but I do like to start the show by freestyling. It's going to be a new thing where I freestyle a song, and so you guys can put lyrics in the chat. I was thinking with that one, some like materialistic things, because I feel like all the songs nowadays are I always like to write the music. I wish it was. And you keep hearing like women bragging in media, like I don't cook. I don't know how to play it, but you know, I don't cook, I don't clean. And it's always bragging about all the things that you can get. So I was like, something cute would be the, oh, I don't need anything. So that was, you know, I don't need anything, just be nice to me. I know that's a recipe for disaster, but like, can you just let a girl Taylor Swift? So give me a word in the chat. Give me a word in the chat, and I'll attempt to write a song on the fly. I'll attempt to. If you weren't here last time, that's what we did. They're saying the volume's low. They could be gaslighting. Oh, it's up, okay. We did Simp Song last time. Let me see. Peace. Oh, I have a lot of things. I've made a lot of money. I've traveled down the world. I've traveled around. I have a lot of things. I've made a lot of money. I've traveled around the world. Ain't it funny? I've gone on trips and it's gotta be like, because if your piece is gonna be the chorus, I wanna build it up. So these are the things I've done. Then you gotta add in, I've searched far and wide, and man, I've got some pride, but there's one thing there's one thing I don't have in my life. I need some peace. God, give me some peace. Help a poor sinner like me. Give me some peace. Make me complete. Help a poor sinner like me. So then that could be the God route, or this is how my mind works. So if I was going to write that song and make it like antagonistic towards women, which really is more of my specialty, I would try to make it faster, which is harder for me to play. I'm a very amateur piano player. It would be like, no, I need it more upbeat. I'm thinking, That's a happier sound. So it would be like the wife is always nagging, that bitch is never shagging. I want her to leave me alone. She's always on her phone, telling me how I wear on, and I just want to be left alone. Give me some peace. That would be the same thing. Give me some peace. Oh shit. Give me some peace. All right. That's. Do you guys see where I'm going with it? It would be. I would have like the first beginning about all the stuff the wife does wrong. Then I would maybe contrast it and say, you know, imagine this is a guy singing. He'd be like, and I'm not a perfect husband, but I really do try. And I can't help but ask why. Leave me alone, give me some peace. I'm a full ground. Okay, this is bad. But you guys get the idea. That's how I would do it. Work with Dax. Do you know what? I met Dax, actually. I did a TikTok with him once. And he loved my song. I think I played it last time where it was like, I've had the world watching for a while now. This one. He that criticized my every move. And maybe I'm going out of style now. That one. The Fallen in Love. It's catchy. But the problem is all of my songs are those 4 chords because I play those the best. I miss Blessing, if you guys remember. He used to play the piano and I would just go off. It'd be fun. Do a song about OnlyFans? All right, we'll do OnlyFans. I'll do one more OnlyFans and then we'll get into the show. The dad song, I'll do that one a different day. $5.99 is my price. You can watch me throw it back all night. Sophia Rain's Poo Nanny is on sale. Lily Phillips, yeah, she'll come pale. And I don't know what world that I'm in, where we're celebrating a life full of sin. And I don't really get it, but I'll never forget it. These OnlyFans hoes are running the world. $5.99, this should be a crime. And now I'm thinking about stuff that rhymes. With $5.99, this should be a crime. Poo Nanny for $5.99. Yeah, so, you know. Thank you for watching. So that's my, you guys will, I take piano lessons a lot, but so you'll have to bear with me as I start to get through them. Let me go back. Well, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you to my supporters. If you guys want, you can donate to the divorce documentary. I'm getting quotes right now for documentary prices. So I think in the next month I want to put it out on Valentine's Day. I think that would be really funny. Like imagine a divorce documentary. If I don't do Valentine's Day, I'm gonna do Mother's Day. And I can make it so funny. I could do a speech that says, "This is for all of the mothers out there. That you all are just amazing and awesome and beautiful." And by the way, guys, you can actually purchase a slot where I give a shout out to your ex-wives. So if you have a message to Susie, now imagine, I read off my you that you were a stupid piece of shit.
Mic issues. Hang on.
Oh, Mike, okay. Is it they can't hear me at all? Or is it just peaking?
They should hear you now.
Okay. All right, testing. Could they hear any of it or no?
It was very quiet.
All right, so.
You're good now. You're good.
Oh no, I think I hear the echoing again. Not yet? Maybe not? No. Okay. All right, so welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily. Thank you guys for your time, attention, and resources today. If you guys want, you can donate to our divorce documentary. As I was just saying, it's echoing again. It's the headphones are echoing. Oh, okay, it's done. Okay. So I was hoping to put out our divorce documentary. Either this year we're going to do it on Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, because I just think it would be really funny. And we're in the process of raising money, and it's going to be great. As you guys know, they really don't want this to come out. They ruined my life for 1.5 years, but I'm back, baby. And you ladies can't stop me. This documentary, it's coming out whether you like it or not. So anyways, if you want to donate, the link's in the description. Now, I want to talk about oppression. And I want to talk about how modern women are addicted to oppression. So before I start, I do have to do a disclaimer and say that not all women are like this. I am totally sure that there are women that are super traditional and just above it all and totally have morals. That's what you trad cons sound like. No, I mean, it's totally not the baseline. And Paul, or whoever the hell it was in the Bible, did not say that he'd never met a good woman. That was in biblical times. I'm just kidding. Not all women are like that, YouTube. There are parts of the show that I will be using comedy, so there may be exaggerations, and this is not meant to hate in any specific group. And that's my disclaimer to do my show. So, what does it mean to be oppressed? Because my whole life, I keep hearing about these groups in society that are oppressed. And from a young age, I really had, even in a Catholic school, I had media on my phone and even in schools saying that women were oppressed and women have a harder time in the workforce. But unfortunately, my real life experience just did not match up with the oppression that I was seeing. I mean, it seemed like in my real life, everything I could set my mind to, I could really do. Like I remember when I was young, I was on the worst team in volleyball. My club, it had 3 teams, and I was on the bottom team. And in 4 years, I worked my way up, and I was on the number 1 team. And very similar things happened. I wanted to be a YouTuber. I put my mind to that. I'm now a YouTuber. This isn't supposed to be a subtle flex show. Sometimes I do these monologues and I don't think about how they sound. But my point is, it always seemed like if I wanted something, that I could go get it and I could do it. I just never really saw this thing where there were these barriers in my way. But I kept hearing these from my critics, my detractors, and the women just around me in everyday life. I mean, I remember being in a volleyball league that really was paid for by the men and hearing the women complain about not being paid enough. It's totally ridiculous. So the definition of oppressed: suffering grave abuse or injustice at the hands of one's authority. Now, I was trying to think about how in 2025, how on earth we could even be oppressed. Like, what on earth could happen in 2025? But before we get into that, I really wanted to talk about the things that women say, how we were oppressed historically, and I wanted to go through them one by one. Now, the problem with feminism is women want all of the freedom to do whatever we want without the authority that comes with it. So, for example, we have a tendency to want to solo travel, and then we expect the men to bail us out when, can't say what I want to say. When somebody, somebody attacks us, but we choose to go to the other side of the world and just travel by ourselves. We want the men responsible. Or if a man travels by himself, he knows that nobody is going to save him. Women want all of the freedom to do whatever we want. We want to go to college and somehow have society bail us out. So really, when you have all of the responsibility of something with none of the authority, in a way, that's slavery. And that's how a lot of men, I would say, are enslaved to the system, where women get all of the freedom, none of the responsibility, and even all of the authority. So the first thing we want to talk about is women's right to vote. So I always hear from conservatives, and by the way, there's a gun to my head, basically. I am not saying that any group should not vote. I did not say that. But I want to go over the historical case for why this is a common talking point from feminists. So in the past, the right to vote was associated with the draft. So you got the freedom of voting for the commander-in-chief with the responsibility of going to war, right? And there was more that went into it at different time periods, but I'm just going to go with that one because it's still somewhat applicable today. And so what the feminists do is they just cry and they moan and they bitch and they say, but were oppressed. Women couldn't vote. And I think the way they say it is just really deceptive. Like, it's very deceptive because they want people to think that we were oppressed because we were women. And it's not really necessarily our gender, but it's the fact that there are certain things our gender can't do. And when it comes to physical strength, I played basketball my entire life, like my entire adult life. And I know basketball is not the same as war, but I gotta use examples that I can talk about. So if I go to a gym, I know if I go up against a guy, and I played basketball from the time I was, I think, in second grade until I played a year overseas in England. That's how far I took the sport. If I go up against a guy that's either just naturally athletic or had 1 to 2 years of high school training, I know I will lose. It doesn't matter how good I am. If I win, it's usually because they're going to take it easy on me. There is no way we can compete when it comes to strength. So historically, women could not vote because we couldn't do the things that came with voting. But the way the and at the time period, if we're going to be honest, the anti-suffragettes were not looked at as sane people. I mean, there's writings from like the 1920s of the anti-suffragettes, which were the women that were against women voting at the time, calling these women cat ladies. Like, they literally said that they don't know what these women are complaining about and that these are cat ladies. But feminist literature, it seems to evade those things. And here's the thing. I've gotten pretty deep into this stuff, obviously. I've gone to feminist conferences. And the ability of these women to just perceive themselves as victims. So the funny thing is, I wore that T-shirt. I'm not going to say what T-shirt because that was one of the reasons I did get kicked off of YouTube for a little bit. But that T-shirt, if you know, you know. I wore it to a feminist convention. And there were speakers there, and they're like at the front, and they're speaking. And then after, I go up and I tell them, "Do you like my shirt?" And they crash. It was a certified crash out. This was actually one of the videos. It's pretty funny. And they wouldn't debate me on this stuff. But I just said, look, I don't think women are oppressed in any way. I think I've been able to accomplish whatever I wanted to accomplish. And if anything, I think it's easier for me. And I mean, the feminists there, they just crash out because they're addicted to oppression. And I just kept thinking about this topic. Why are women in general so addicted to being victims? Because there's some sort of power in victimhood because the men want to solve your victimhood. And that's how we almost have equal pay while men produce 80% of the world's stuff. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna read you guys' chats in a second. Hold on. But it doesn't stop there. Feminists will argue even further that women were oppressed. So the next thing I hear from feminists is that we were oppressed because women were forced to marry young. And they say, but Pearl, we were forced to marry at like 18 years old, which if you really look at the historical record, that's not always true. I mean, it depends if they were in the North or the South. It depends what part of America and the UK they were in. But 21, 22 was not abnormal except in more rural communities, I would say. But they say that, Pearl, women were oppressed because they had to marry young. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's an argument. Nobody wants women. Well, I mean, there's certain groups, but I would say in general, nobody wants women to marry men they don't want to marry. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been married to a woman that doesn't want to be with you, but that's hell on earth. That's hell for all parties involved. That's why I'm really not. I used to say ban divorce, but I changed my mind on this topic. I think we need a very easy divorce process. And I think we need a way for women to save their reputation somehow. And it's not really for the women, but it's because, I mean, we gotta save these men. I mean, these men are in these sexless One of my most liked tweets of all time was the marriage life cycle. And I said, step 1, get married. Step 2, have 2 kids. Step 3, stop having sex after the kids. And guys, this was one of my most liked tweets of all time. And you have to understand that there's some, how do I put it? There's some, when things go viral, it means it's a pain point in society. Another thing that went equally as viral was I did a Catfish of the Year competition. But so this is common, and if anything, it's the baseline. And when I talk to some of the older people I know, they say they don't know a single married couple that's having sex. That's how bad it is. So the feminists will come at me and they will say, but Pearl, women had to get married young. Isn't that terrible? Isn't that a terrible thing that women had to marry young? Now, I think to my grandmother, and my grandmother, I've talked about her before on the show, she had 9 children. She was from a rural part of the country. I got to be more vague in these stories because you people are crazy sometimes. And she had like 2 kids or 3 kids by the time she was 18. And I talked to my grandma on her deathbed before she died. And I asked her, do you have any regrets in life? So at this point, she's dying and she could tell me if she had any regrets in life. She looked at me and she said, I just wish I had more kids. And I'm like, Grandma, you had 9. How many did you want? She's like, 12. I'm like, all right, Grandma. Now, I'm just looking at her and I'm thinking, I don't think this is the face of a woman who's oppressed. But to be fair, I think she would have been born in like, I don't know, 60s, 50s. So it's not even that. But even if you go back in history, it was just a different time. People got married out of pragmatism because what was your other choice at the time? I mean, you had to survive and most people were farmers. And it was kind of like a business decision, The dad would kind of be like, all right, that farmer looks good enough. And then he would actually accept the girls were so annoying that the guys were actually paid to deal with the women. They would come with a dowry. And so at that time in society, that was really just how society was set up and how it worked. People did more arranged marriages. And it benefited both sides because, it's not like the women, the most common jobs in the 1800s were coal miner, farmer, oh my God, what was the third one? And in the late 1800s, factory worker. Most people had farms and you needed kids to run them. So, they act like women had a gun to their head, but, a lot of the early feminists were some of the original 304s. So there were examples of women who just wanted to be spinsters and just spin forever. So I really just don't see this idea that women have a gun to their head and were forced to marry young. It just seems like that was the most pragmatic thing to do at the time. Now, the next example that I have is that women were abused. And I think that's you can't give men authority because they will abuse with it. And what I've noticed is that women, we have a tendency, whenever really?
Did you bump it? Is it connected on that end?
Clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no.
Because men are useless. I mean,
This headline from The Hill, it caught my eye. Most young men are single. Most young women are not.
Young men have fallen faster than any demographic in America over the last 40 years.
It's a different world now. Like, we don't need men the way that they used to.
Nobody needs men!
The future is female.
Men and women are drifting further apart, and society is crumbling because of it.
A fascinating debate has broken out about the value of marriage.
You've kind of got the trad con versus red pill thing.
This men's rights crowd that sometimes just goes too far the other way.
You need to stop acting like grown boys and infants and actually become men.
Marriage is a bond, and it's a sacred bond.
It's a machine designed to extract resources from you.
Now many of the red-pilled have taken the position that it's bad for men to get married.
Hannah Pearl Davis, or just Pearly things.
One of the most controversial faces in all of the internet.
She goes on to say that marriage is a terrible deal for men.
Because if me and you were in a business contract, you would never sign a contract where I am paid to leave.
Gee, what could go wrong there?
74% or something of divorces are initiated by women. Men have everything to lose, primarily their own children.
Men get killed by the courts and by divorce laws.
I had no idea that courts of family law were courts of equity, not courts of law.
Because in family court, you don't need evidence to accuse someone of abuse. You need no evidence.
When you guys say get married young, a lot of these men don't know what they're signing up for, and you're not going to be there when their entire life falls apart. I interview them on the other side.
I didn't meet my son until he was 15 months old.
How much did you spend trying to get him back?
On legal fees alone was about $200,000.
Before you know it, you're homeless. You're literally just thrown out onto the street.
We absolutely reinforce bad behavior from women.
Wives are taught to leave their husbands, and then daughters grow up without their fathers.
Family is the foundation of society.
Every problem in society comes from single mother homes.
A lot of women will just chase this negative rabbit hole of happiness, endless happiness.
Feminism's biggest failures is it lies to women. We tell women to date as many guys as possible. We tell them to put off family into marriage.
You are allowed to leave your perfect husband. You are allowed to end a relationship with a really great boyfriend.
Oh, freeze your eggs, have an abortion.
What? You're evil.
I don't think there's anything else in life that we actually ever go into preparing to fail. Right. Like if you have the mentality of this is going to go wrong and be pessimistic, naturally the outcome is going to be that it's going to fail anyway. Yeah. It's self-sabotage.
And that's the thing, like women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
This myth that we live in an age of male privilege. Where's my male privilege?
They think, well, men have all the rights. They have all the power.
Privileged patriarchal system that we have.
Why doesn't our society care about men's rights?
I have no friends.
No wife and no social life.
Men are alone in this situation. Men are homeless. Men are thinking about eating guns.
I've seen so many men on the brink of suicide and they didn't do anything wrong.
How are you equal if the men are the ones that have to fight and die to defend the country? The men are the ones that build and maintain all the infrastructure.
Women are helplessly dependent upon men.
The so-called deaths of despair from suicide, overdose, or alcohol, 3 times higher among men than among women.
Culture is telling men you are no good.
You got to get your act together.
I think men have failed themselves.
What kind of a man are you? What kind of a woman are you going to attract?
If men are in trouble, so are women.
Everybody knows this is a huge problem, but nobody wants to admit it.
Every single woman at the table said they wanted a man.
500K,
500K,
300K,
300K,
200K.
Am I crazy?
Everything is really set up against you to fail as a man.
If men make less than women, women don't want to marry them.
So you know who wants more economically and emotionally viable men? Women.
I don't want to be an independent woman anymore.
I don't want to be a strong, independent woman.
I'm over it.
When is it going to be my turn?
Where are we meeting the men that don't stop?
I can't keep having these same conversations.
The only simp here is you, Pearl. You simp for men.
I think you simp for women.
She's a provocateur, she says stupid stuff, but Pearl is right about this.
It's already happening. It's just not out in the open yet.
Now it's just hookup culture is going to be our fairy tale ending because men don't want a wife and women can't find a husband.
The future, if everybody follows your path, is there is no future.
We go into population decline and our economy goes into decline.
Civilization will crumble.
The American story does not end well. This is an existential crisis, failing young men.
We're back. We fixed it, I think. Can they hear me now? Yeah. One in the chat. One in the chat. All right, so I want to keep going with this female oppression. Because, you know, I think it's important to really understand how your enemy thinks. Now, I'm not calling women the enemy out loud. I'm not saying that out loud. But you have to understand that as people, I mean, I think at some level we love oppression. Like, we love being oppressed. Because when you look at like what we like to consume as women. Now, one of the most popular shows amongst women is Handmaid's Tale. Now, Handmaid's Tale is about a society where women are literally like, basically everybody's infertile. And so the fertile women are put in like red cloaks and forced to be raped once a month. And women are like, that's an amazing show. Let me sign up. 50 Shades of Grey. I mean, need I say more? But yet there's this idea that women, and this is kind of the concept that I hear from feminists, is that women were abused. Now, I want to talk about this on its head. Now, you could argue that men are the violent ones. And I think that's really what mainstream media says. I mean, they have more testosterone. On its paper, you know, they commit the majority of violent crime. But when you look into murder statistics, the majority of murders are actually fights gone wrong. And I don't think most men, when they're fighting each other, are really trying to kill each other, just in general, right? I mean, it's just, you know, one guy punches the other and the other's dead. I mean, and this is a baseline level of violence that men have to contend with from a young age. So that's the majority of murders. But when we look at female murders, I mean, if we count abortion as murder, which is really your own child, 1/3 of women have had murders or have committed murder. And now there's this idea that this is new. I really don't believe it is, because if you look at the infant mortality rate from the 1800s and the 1700s, it's really similar It's about the same as the abortion rate today. I personally don't think that's a coincidence. And when I had Dr. David Baker on the show, he actually mentioned that it was not uncommon in the 1800s for like women to go crazy and have like hysteria and kill the kid in the first year. And we're kind of seeing that still. I mean, even after the kids are born in 2025, women are throwing them in dumpsters. There's just that sorority girl that threw her baby in a dumpster. And I think that is almost more violent than what the men are doing. I mean, you could argue that a lot of the men that are murdered or get into that sort of thing, I don't want to say they have it coming because nobody deserves it. But, you know, it's a lot of gang violence and a lot of people that are somewhat violent and they're getting into fights. It's not like an innocent, sometimes it is an innocent person, but it's not uncommon for the victim of a crime to not be completely innocent themselves or involved in something they shouldn't have been involved in. Sometimes we see it, it's wrong place, wrong time, but, you know, at times it is that person's decision. But it's not really a baby's decision who their mother is. And yet women are much more violent towards children and much more violent towards the elderly. But what I don't understand is with women, there's always an excuse. So what trad cons always say, or sometimes trad cons, sometimes feminists, I've heard everybody make this argument, is that women are with children more, so of course they're going to be more abusive. And you know, sometimes I think we're so used to saying bullshit that we can just get away with it. But just because you're with the kid, that doesn't mean you got to kill it. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, no, that doesn't really. And the crazy thing is when men abuse children, usually it's a stepdad that the mother brings in. So if you look at the child abuse stat from the last 100 years, women are more abusive towards their children than fathers. At 70, 80, it's around 70 and 80% of all abuse towards kids is from the mother. Unless it's like a stepdad, but like of the two biological parents. So I don't see a world where men are the abusive monsters. Now, I know what a lot of people say. They say in the 50s and 60s, women were these abused housewives. But I never understood why we always go back to the 50s and the 60s. I never understood why that's like the golden era of America. Because if anything, women in the 50s and 60s probably had better lives than most women had in all of history. I mean, they didn't have to work, and they didn't have to work on a farm either. That was after the Industrial Revolution. So they actually had better luck. But there's some idea in the media that they always had like a girl with an apron in the 50s that was just like abused. Like that's kind of the mainstream feminist narrative is these men are just abusive. But, you know, you look into these violent stats. You look in, that's why I never understood this argument that the women are the nurturing gender. To who? To who? I mean, women are like the deceptive gender in general. But if you look, you start digging, and I started looking into this, you know. Now, most abusive situations, the couple is beating each other. Now, I think we've all seen this. Like, do you know the couple where the wife hits the husband? I mean, we've all seen that couple that is just toxic and they just love fighting with each other. It's like their favorite thing. You know, everybody will be chilling at a party and then they just start arguing and they go outside, start screaming at each other. And you're just like, I just want to enjoy my beer. You know? So I kind of think, you know, back to the murder stats. If you're involved in gang violence and something happens, it's not, I don't have sympathy for you, but you shouldn't have been in that situation. If you're in an abusive relationship and you're both beating each other, I think it's a wash. You know, you both shouldn't be beating each other. But when you look into one-sided abuse, it's about 70% women hitting men. So not only do women actually out-murder men, we also out-abuse men when we can't. Like, imagine if women had the strength that men have. Imagine how violent society would be. And I go even further. They look at queens, and I told this to a liberal friend of mine the other day. And I said that women were the violent gender, and he said, no, men are abusive and violent. And I looked at him and I go, really? Is that what you've seen? Truly. And I said, you know, and he said that stupid phrase they say that there would be world peace if women were in charge. And I just said, I want to kill myself. I want to kill them. So I told him, I said, you know, they took queens from the last 500 years to see who waged war more. And literally women wage war more than men. So I don't know where we got this idea that women were nurturing in any way, shape, or form. I just don't understand it. I don't know where it came from. We out-murder men if we include abortion. We're the most likely to murder infants. We're the most likely to murder and abuse infants and the elderly. And, you know, if there's an infanticide, meaning the kid dies within the first year of life, you know the police don't even look for a man because it's almost always the mother. It's almost always a woman, pretty much unanimously. Now, the next argument that I get is that women couldn't work. And I just never understood this argument. They say women, you know, the men got to go to work. And I think women look at work like a daycare. For adults or something. They think that working is like fun. They see Wolf of Wall Street. They think that's what it is. But for most of history, again, the majority of people were farmers, coal miners, or in the last, like, let's say 200 years, after the hunter-gatherer area. Again, most people were farmers, coal miners, or they worked in a factory. And to be honest, only rich women, thank you, Patrol. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. We're at 200 likes on the video, guys. Let's see if we can break 500. Okay. So only rich women couldn't work. Women have always worked. And I want you to really ask yourself this, feminists. I really want you to like sit down and think about it. Is your marketing job harder than what the Amish women do on a daily basis? Because if you want to go back in time and look at what life used to be like, I mean, there are pockets of America that kind of live that way. So you can go to an Amish part of the country and you can see, I mean, those women are getting up at 6 a.m. They're milking cows. And, you know, part of the dowry system of like the men were paid to take the wife on, right? Part of it was women were expected to do farm labor. Now, obviously, they couldn't do the same things the men could do, but they didn't just cook and clean. They also helped on the farm. And if you Google a day in the life of the Amish, I think that the marketing job is easier, really, truly. You know, because there are people that have lived with the Amish. They get up at the crack of dawn. They're like doing the cows. They're working in the fields. I mean, this is not easy work. Even if you're not doing even if you're just helping your husband do it. So in history, women always worked, but the difference is with technological advances, women worked inside the home and then it went to outside the home and then we started banging our bosses. I mean, that's just how it goes. So I don't know why women have a tendency to think that life was just easy. I mean, most men didn't have it easy either. The majority of men died in war. Sorry. The majority of deaths from war were men. Men were sacrificed in order to build the country that we have. Yet it's not taken into account. It's like, you know, a ton of men were, you know, killed in war to build our country. Death. And then women's argument is, well, we didn't get to work and we had to marry young. You realize most men married young too. Like, it wasn't just and the men had to take on the responsibility of taking care of the wife and dealing with the nagging. Now, the next thing that women like to say is that women just would have invented so many things and done. There's this idea that women would have basically run the world and done so much if we weren't just held back with our children. And to be honest, I see this in society anyways with women today. Like, women will have kids. I'll give you an example. Aisha Curry, Steph Curry's wife, I think she thinks she would have been some A-list actor if she didn't marry Steph Curry. When she's probably more famous than she would be if she really followed that dream. And, now women basically are given extra help. We're given extra scholarships in school. We're given preferential job hiring. And ladies, I just ask you, where are the inventions? When are you going to cure cancer? When are you going to not take over as CEO of a Fortune 500 company? But when are we going to build one ourselves? It's one thing to come in the CEO role as something that was already built, but when are we going to do it? Every time there's a woman, we have a tendency, not all. Every time there's a woman I think is breaking barriers, beating the odds, it just always turns out to be a scam. Like, we had that woman, I can't remember her name. She's in jail now. Do you know what's crazy? I think she only got like 10 years. She might be out. There was a woman 15, 20 years ago, blonde lady with weird eyes. They predicted that she was going to be the first female billionaire. She was on the front of magazines, and they said she had this new technology and that she was just going to make $1 billion. And then it turns out, she was doing what we do best, lying. She was just taking money. She was just taking money, promising things that didn't happen, and lying. And then it never happened. There's a lot of female inventors that if you really look into, their invention, there's one, I can't remember her name. I think it's Madame Curie. Is that the name? Yeah. Madame Curie magically, I want to make sure her husband was he was also a physicist. So all of her inventions magically stopped when her husband died. So, I'm not saying we can't do it. And I really do think that women can do a lot of these things. But we just from what I've seen, it's just a lack of willpower, because to be honest, guys, I know, at one point this channel had 1 billion views on it. And I recognize that a lot of the reason I am where I'm at is because, I'm one of the few women that do this kind of thing. But when it comes to women, I just don't think the competition is stiff at all, because women are just so late. And I noticed this when I was in sports too. When I was in sports, usually you're on a team of 15 women. Okay, there's usually 15 women on a team. And by the way, compared, there's people that are harder workers than me, but just in general, if I was on a team of women, I always got most improved. I can't even count the amount of most improved trophies I've gotten in my life. That was just my thing. I was never the best one, but I was always the one to move up a team every, it was just my thing because I worked hard. And there would usually be 1 or 2 other women on a team of 15 maybe, that I would say also put in extra hours, would come in early, all that stuff. It just wasn't. And at some point, inventing and doing stuff is kind of a numbers game. It's how many hours you put into it, and we don't seem to be willing to do what the men are going to do. Because we do have some, physical capabilities. We are more emotional. But I've said it before. I don't know why. I can see why women today don't want to work again. Because first we fought to work, and then now we're mad we're working. It's the men are what do you want? But, I have to be honest. I see a lot of housewives as being pretty lazy people. Most of the women I knew in high school that grew up to be housewives, I can't say it was their love of children. It was more just they didn't want to work. And I do say that with the utmost respect to housewives that are really hardworking and involved in their kids' lives. There are those. I grew up with one nearby, and she was just a gem. But they don't really make them like her anymore. I'm just being honest. Because now women are complaining, we first wanted to work, now we don't want to work. And the crazy thing is, women are putting their kids in public school. That's the norm. You might say we should homeschool, but the norm is public school, okay? Meaning your kid's gone from 7 to 3 every day. We have air fryers and Roombas. And you can't work like 3 days a week, that's gonna kill the kid. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, and it would be one thing, like my grandma had 9 children, but we're having 1.5, 1.5 kids. A lot of times, women, we just have a tendency to get one over on guys because we're like, oh, you know, it'll be like, I have $50,000 of student debt you need to pay off, and I want to be a housewife. And the men are like, well, it depends. If he can be fooled kind of easy, he'll be like, oh, right this way, honey. But a lot of times, you know, I say send her to McDonald's or something. At least it'll humble her, you know. Or women could be teachers. I don't really see that being an impact if you have the same schedule as your kids. I don't really see that impeding the one child, not 5, not 10, 1. I think you could be pretty involved. So it's interesting because first the feminists said they wanted to work, and now we're working and we don't want to work. It's like, which is it? And the crazy thing is, if we're still not doing the hard jobs, the majority of workplace deaths are men. We're still not building the buildings. We're still not paving the roads. And in many ways, we're really doing a lot of the same jobs women were doing 100 years ago. We just did it in the home. I mean, one of the top jobs for women is assistants. Assistants. Being an assistant. Which, by the way, I really think a lot of these trad wives with 1 kid, I mean, you could be a virtual assistant. Go do it, honey. I mean, do you know what's funny? So I'll see these trad wives on Twitter, like baking bread, and I'll look at them, and I'll just think that's pretty inefficient. Do you know what I mean? Like bread's like $2. Don't you think you could? I'm not against the bread being baked, but sometimes I just think, you know, men are kind of happy with like tacos or like just a steak. They're like good with kind of easy, quick meals because they think of time as money. But we're here baking bread when you can go to a bakery and get it for $2. Do you know what I mean? And it's so interesting because some of the women, like I did the math on this once, that if a woman became a school teacher for 20 years, the man could retire 20 years earlier if they saved her money and she didn't, you know, spend it. I did the math on that. It was like 15, 20 years. And I was thinking about this. I'm like, women said, I am too lazy to get a part-time easy job. Like that's not, you know, it's not manual labor. Like the number one job for women in the United States is preschool teachers. I just can't imagine that's the most mentally rigorous job in the world. I can't, I'm not saying it's easy per se, but if I had to do a hierarchy of hard jobs, I wouldn't put it at the top, okay? I wouldn't put my job at the top either. And that's kind of the impasse we're at society. You know, women, it's like we want both. We want to do whatever we want. We want to not give men authority over us. We want to say, hey, you know, you have no authority over me. Oh, pretty cool. Thanks, Crucible. That's awesome. Thank you, Patrol. $100 super chat. Thank you. It's not my birthday, but thank you. Wait, who said it was my birthday? It's not my birthday. I mean, it's getting closer, but don't remind me, all right? I can't celebrate them anymore. I'm over 25. I do appreciate it. Did he say it was my birthday? Rachel, thanks for coming. But that's really where we're at an impasse in society. Because we just have a tendency, I can't believe you said $100. Thank you. We Wait, why are they saying stop saying happy birthday? It's not here yet. I'm still 23. Stop saying it. Stop. All right, all right. Andrew says happy birthday. No, it's not my birthday. All right. Happy birthday. Why are you guys saying it's my birthday? What the hell? How did I get 3,000 people watching? That's crazy. Andrew's got such good fans. Yes, I'm 23 and I'm a woman. I'm going to gaslight you guys to eternity. Or I'm going to say 40. That's actually my two answers in interviews. You guys keep saying happy birthday and it's not my birthday. It's not happy birthday again. Happy birthday. Don't fret about your age. My wife has been 25 for the last 40 weeks. Do you know what? Maybe it is my birthday. You know what? Keep sending this. But this is what I mean when we're really at an impasse in society where women, it's like we said we wanted to work. And then the men said, fine, go ahead, go to work. And now we're like, this is hard. When I don't even understand why we're complaining, because do we want to look up a day in the life of the Amish? I can do it. A day in the life of the Amish. Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine that this is better. I mean, I prefer my streaming life now. I prefer that.
I'm wearing Amish clothing in a horse and buggy.
All right.
Who have been joining in on more.
Hold on, let me.
That should be our show. Welcome to.
I need to get through the YouTuber stuff. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much.
We're trying to find an Amish family that would actually
24 hours and let us ball.
Go to my right.
Volunteer on the farm and kind of live with them and experience. I know it's a pretty crazy ask, but.
Mexico to see a doctor.
Yeah.
So we've had the first experience of flying back and forth.
Wow.
But before that, I spent like 40 years here on the farm, and I'd never traveled. I could see my mailbox most of the time.
Wow. How was the flying experience?
Awesome.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes.
What does that seek discomfort mean? It's like you're getting out. And,
That's exactly right.
Okay.
It's our motto.
I thought maybe.
Hold
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
All right, I need to find a better one. Pearl, it's your day and night. Celebrate. I guess it is I didn't know I was born on September 20th till today. I didn't know, but I guess I was. I want to find, there's one I watched a while ago because I want to show the work that they do. And it just seems a lot more tedious than what we have to do at a marketing job. It seems a lot more tedious than the day in my life that I watch from women on TikTok.
Amish, and then there's the Schwarzentrooper Amish, the most extreme subgroup of them all. What I'm about to do.
How
These YouTubers gotta get. Yeah, see, they're so. All right, this isn't American. Whatever. You guys get the idea. I should have thought this more through because these are like 30-minute videos, and who's got time for that? But this would include taking care of animals. This would include, and I just want you to think of your average girl in the cities, okay? Do you think that they're able to take care of a cow, to milk do you think they're willing to get down and dirty with the fake nails and a pound of makeup and milk the cow and go pull weeds out of the garden? I mean, do you really see women doing that? I mean, do you see that as something city women are willing to do. And this is the problem. What we want to do is we want to make bad choices. We want men to pay for them. And you know what? I'm actually not even fully against women making bad choices. At some level, there's survival of the fittest, you know? I mean, there's always been spinsters in history who didn't reproduce. There's always been. I mean, it just is what it is. If you want to make a bad choice, that's on you. It's your life. I can't control anybody. But I do want you to pay for it. I really do want you to pay the bill, to foot the bill, not society, not your husband. Like, if you have a bunch of student debt, I don't know why the husbands have to pay for it. You can go get a sales job, honey. You know, you can go work in marketing or at a call center or Starbucks. So the next feedback I get from the feminists is that women had to step up and leave single mothers and be single mothers because men are awful and leave their families. And this is the biggest gaslighting of our time, deadbeat dads. There's this idea in that we really had for like 50 years in society that men are the ones that didn't just want to be fathers. That men are the ones that had no interest in having a family, and they were just these abusive, evil guys that wanted to leave women high and dry. They wanted to get you pregnant and just leave you after. Until you find out women file for divorce 70 to 80% of the time. Not only that, they abort a third of children, and a good chunk of those abortions are actually married women aborting their kids. So which is it? It's like, again, women, we just have this tendency, everything that we want to do, we blame the man for. It's like women, you know, we always say that men will bang anything as women bang anything and then say that men will do it. We always say that men want to just leave their families high and dry as women leave their families high and dry to go party in Dubai or some bullshit. But women worked the assembly lines during World War II. Surely that means they were boss babes and awesome. Do you know what? I found out, and I'm going to grok this to be sure. I'm going to grok it. What percent of World War II, what percent of World War II was women in the factories? I think last time I checked, it was like 20%. (25 to 30% of factory workers). So, okay, this was the story I always heard in history class. This is what I always heard. The men went to war, women stepped up and took over the factories. So when I think of women stepping up and taking over these factories, I think it's going to be like 80%. Do you know what I mean? Like if I hear this is a female-dominated company, I think I'm going to go in there and look around and see a bunch of women. And it's a quarter, roughly a quarter of women, up to maybe a third of factory workers were women. Meaning that 2/3 were men. And it just goes back to this, it's like never-ending gaslighting with these feminists. It's never ending. I mean, they're saying that the men are going to leave the families while they're leaving the families. They're saying men don't want to be fathers while women are aborting their kids. They're saying that women worked these factory jobs while the men were the majority of the factory jobs. It's like, feminists take credit for everything. And it just never ends. The next thing that feminists have a tendency to say is that women have to deal with more of a mental and emotional load being in a relationship or marriage. And I keep hearing this from feminists and women in general. They say by being in a relationship, they have to take on a mental load. Now, obviously, I have to Google what is mental load? Wait, okay, so a mental load is the unpaid cognitive and emotional labor of constantly remembering, planning, and organizing tasks needed to manage a household or a family. It includes anticipating needs, making decisions, delegating, and ensuring tasks get done, while often discussed in the context of straight relationships where women typically bear the majority of the invisible burden anyone can experience in various settings, leading to exhaustion, resentment, or burnout. Now, I really want to think about this. Who is the gender of chaos? Who is the gender of peace? I'm not going to say, not all. But if you had to pick one, which gender is more peaceful? Now, we already went through women are the violent gender. Women are aborting the kids. Women are violent towards the elderly. Women are violent towards children. Now, who's the gender that loves talking? Who's the gender that loves telling all these stupid details about our day? Who's the gender that's nice enough to listen? Who really is taking on the mental load of relationship? I'm sorry, ladies, I just don't think it's us. I think we bring an emotional burden that's really annoying into relationships. All women, right? I'm not even, obviously I have an emotional load. Every woman has an emotional load. Every woman, some higher, some lower. But at some point, men, when they have you as a boyfriend, as a wife, they're forced to listen to a bunch of bullshit they don't care about. And they're not going to tell you, they're nice people. They're not going to tell you to shut the F up every time we talk, right? I mean, every time you say something annoying, they're not going to be like, hey, shut up, I don't care. I mean, some men will, but men in general are not, they don't say, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. They got to listen to us bitch about Love Island. They got to listen to us bitch about The Bachelor. They have to listen to us talk about, I even heard a guy say the other day that he didn't want a religious woman because he didn't want to debate theology. And really, it's like you try to bring a woman to church and now she's arguing with you about the Bible. It's like we just find a way to argue. And yet there's some idea that women have the emotional load in a relationship. I just don't think that makes sense. We have some more supers. Bitches love peace. What's your take on female educators' growing exposure of being predators to male students? It's clearly not being exposed like it should be. Again, everything women say men are, women are. For 50 years, women have called everyone and their mother a pedo. Everybody. And do you know what? I interviewed women on the streets, okay? And one of these women claimed they were underage when I asked for ID. I was actually willing to take this video down, right? I did a street interview. And I asked for an ID. I said, prove it, because I thought she was like 20. And she wouldn't prove it. And I had a campaign run against me calling me a pedo because I had a sign that women came up to debate. I mean, this is the craziness. Again, because of what I do, I get treated like men get treated a lot of the time. But I'm going back to this. Everything women say men are, women prove to be. Women have said for 50 years that men are pedos. Yet women are the ones that keep messing with students. And, you know, it's not just stats and data. You know, I do think stats, data, facts, data, and statistics are a necessary evil for what I do. But the problem with them is you don't know who funded them, and people are very manipulative trying to win a debate, trying to win an argument. And I've always stood by the best way to figure out what's going on is real life, talking to your friends, talking to your family, and what you see. Because nobody can manipulate your eyes, right? Nobody can manipulate what you see with your eyes. And when I was in high school, there was a rumor that somebody slept with a teacher. Now, I don't know if this rumor was true. I have no evidence. That's why I would never say a name or anything like that. But the rumor that this happened with, it was a female teacher and a male student. But, you know, that could have just been a one-off, right? Like, it's whatever. But when your real life experience starts to match up with the news, you start to think, maybe women are the actual predators. So what's my take is that women have gaslit for eternity. I had offers in school. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I have heard a good chunk of men tell me that they lost their virginity to a female relative. And that's actually really sad to me. But I probably know 5 guys that have told me that same story. I don't know a single woman that told me that story. I think women are far more sexual than men. I do. Now, it's only certain men that see the sexuality that they display it to. I mean, we are naked in public, but I mean like the overt. I mean, look, because I know a lot of weird people, right? I really do. I know men that are so good looking that women approach them and give them offers for sex. Like I've seen it. I've seen it. I like Andrew's audience. You guys, I like you guys here. All right, let me read the supers. I work in a warehouse with 90% men and one woman who's the biggest tomboy. We constantly have to help the one woman with physical labor. Why? Yeah. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Women will come into male industries. And the problem is men are such good people. And really, at its core, I don't know why women have this, feminist screaming and crying about fearing men. Because when I look at my life, the people that have helped me the most in life were men. Really, to become the YouTuber I was today, when I was 22, I was a really curious person. I loved watching the Daily Wire. I loved watching conservative debates, and I loved YouTube. And so I messaged like a bunch of people. I messaged men and women asking, do you know anybody in social media? I said, could you mentor me? Could I just get on a call with you to, pick your brain about, X, Y, and Z? And the person that responded was, at the time, he was like the director of, like, actually, I got to be more broad in these stories so I don't get people in trouble. But he was somebody important in the media industry, I'll say. And he ended up mentoring me for a little bit for free. He ended up managing my channel. And this mentorship actually paid off. He made a lot of money off of me later. But in the beginning, like he saved me so much time by teaching me how to do thumbnails, how to do titles. Another story, when I was in Milwaukee, I decided, this was before all social media. I've always just been kind of an odd person. Like I've always just gotten odd ideas. And when I was in Milwaukee, I had this idea to call rich people, and I would just ask if they would hang out and get coffee with me. And I got 3 C-level executives. One was a woman, to be fair, but to get coffee with me and just tell me like how to become successful or whatever. Because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. These were Fortune 500 companies. Now, maybe it's because I was a 22-year-old girl. I don't know. But woman, we got to stop calling grown women girls, whatever. But my point is, men are so willing to give advice for free. Men are so willing to listen to your problems for free. Yet society just does not appreciate them. And when women go into male-dominated industries, there's usually 20 men willing to help her. And, you know, when I worked in Milwaukee, I worked in sales and I sold copiers. No offense, great company, worst job in my life. I just did not like that job. But can you imagine trying to sell a photocopier like printer during COVID when everyone's working from home? It was just a bad time. But I remember they gave me one of the best clients. They basically took one of the biggest clients from this guy and gave it to me. And this female privilege, right? And there's nothing I could do about it, right? They just assigned it to me. And this guy was willing to help me with this client that the company basically stole from him and gave to me. There is Shane, thank you for the cake. Pearl, it's your day and night. Celebrate. Happy birthday. Okay, it's definitely not my birthday, but I mean, you guys can keep saying it if you want to give me supers. Lady relatives are easy pickets. What is wrong with you? Why would you say that? That's just like a messed up. Okay, you know. But in general, men really are good people. And I understand there are men that are not. But to be honest, when I see men that do awful atrocities, if you look into it, a lot of times they're going crazy through a divorce. Because a lot of men in this country, what happens is they're really sold a dream. They're sold that they can have a wife and children and they can have the American dream, buy a house, have 2 kids and the white picket fence. And they sign up for that dream. They sign up and the relationship is going really well. Most men, before they get divorced, they do not see it coming. They think everything's fine. But women have this subconscious mental load that they're holding. And out of the blue, what the woman does is after she gets the children, and they're usually around preschool age, then the woman decides to file for divorce. She steals the house, she steals his kids, and she steals his money. And a lot of times this is guys around like 40 to 50, and gray divorce is rising. So these men have worked 20 years to build themselves up just to have their wife rob them legally. And the society that a lot of times, the guys that I would interview that got hit the worst were a lot of blue-collared men. Like, you know, men that had pensions, men that weren't going to make the money back ever. And when they're robbed and they have to start over and everything important to them is taken, I understand why they crash out. I'm not saying it's good, but when women crash out, it's like over a mental load. It's like, what? You know, when you're getting robbed and your children kidnapped, I can understand, you know, where you're coming from. But, you know, I interviewed men that will never recover. Never. Men probably would have cured cancer by now if they didn't have nagging wives at home, to be honest. If I'm really going to be honest here. So I just never understood this feminist idea that men are such evil, bad, non-trustworthy people. Now, the next feminist lie I would say is every strong man had a woman behind her. Oh my gosh. Every strong man had a woman behind them, and the woman just didn't get enough credit. And again, this goes back to men's good nature. Men don't like making women sad. They don't like hurting the woman's feelings. So what tends to happen is the men let the woman believe that he couldn't have done this without her. Now, you know, my dad, I've talked about him a lot on this show. He's the most high-performing, efficient man I've ever met in my life. I beg him to come on the channel because I think he is so cool, and I think the world should see him, but he hates social media. But my dad would be a high-performing person if he did or he didn't have a family. He is that type of person. Elon Musk didn't have a wife and a kid supporting him he got divorced, now he's got 10 baby mamas. But he's still going. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like after his divorce, he couldn't, he couldn't make Tesla, he couldn't buy Twitter. No, high-performing men are going to do high-performing things. And if anything, I would say that families hold men back more than they build them up because they are a responsibility. And I think that's actually the biggest lie that I see traditional conservatives push, is that the wife and the kids is somehow going to build the man up. Now, you could say that it could make him more fulfilled. I would say that could be an accurate statement. I could say that it's better for society that we have families. But, if a guy, at the end of the day, working is a numbers game. Building a skill is a numbers game. And a lot of dads have 40 hours a week while the childless guys have 80. Who's going to win? Who's going to get better faster? And so what happens is women, because maybe they allow their husbands to work, or maybe the woman stayed home with the kids and didn't nag and beg him to be home more. Let's say this is a picture-perfect wife. The women still think he couldn't have done it without him. But high-performing, creative people, they tend to invent things. They tend to build society. It doesn't matter if you take everything from them. They're just going to do it again. And that's why I say the men that get hit the hardest in divorce, they're not the high performers. I mean, if Elon Musk lost all his money tomorrow, or men similar to him, he would be fine. But it's really the men that get screwed are the average earning or slightly above average earning that really build and maintain the society. Many times they have a pension that the woman steals because they won't actually recover. If men, like my father, lost everything, he would just start another company tomorrow, I mean, they might not make as much money as before because they had 20 years to build it, but they'll do all right. They'll consult, they'll do whatever. So men are so nice that they allowed women to believe they had an equal part in their success. And instead of being grateful for that, women used that against them. And I think at its core, the issue we're having in society really with women is that we're just not happy people. And, I think a lot of times women have children to be happy. Women get married to be happy. Women put happiness on other people. Women will get a job to be happy. Women will start partying to be, I used the two examples that are probably more good, but there's bad ones too. Women will do drugs to be happy. Women will F Tom, Dick, and Harry. Women will get divorced to be happy. And it's we never stop to think that maybe your happiness is your problem. Men don't expect women to make them happy. Men understand that nobody cares. Nobody cares about their problems. Nobody's going to give them any sympathy. There's nobody. But the difference with women is we go out and talk about our problems. We get all the sympathy. And a lot of times we can build brands talking about our problems. There's a million women on TikTok. There's women that have brands built on their poor life choices, like getting out of debt, getting STD. It's crazy. But I think the women that mature, and there's not many women that mature, but occasionally I'll see a woman that life has just humbled her. And there's nothing, I think, more satisfying than a humbled woman, because you just never see it ever. And it's usually a woman where she either had a kid out of wedlock, or her baby daddy she took she got an incurable STD, some L she took that was just ginormous. It was just super big. And at that point, the world stops validating her the same way she used to, or the same way it used to. And sometimes women start to realize that it is their job to make themselves entertained, and it is your job to make yourself happy. Because if you're an unhappy person and you get married, you're just going to be an unhappy married person. If you're an unhappy person and you have a kid, you're just going to be an unhappy person with a kid. Ask half the people that complain about their mothers, right? If you're an unhappy person and you get your dream job, you're just going to be an unhappy person with your dream job. At some point, we as women really have to not even come together, but we have to look internally and say, maybe the reason I'm unhappy isn't my husband. The reason I'm unhappy isn't because I'm not where I want to be in life. The reason I'm unhappy, it's not a job. It's not because I didn't get invited to the latest party. It's not because I got kicked out of the friend group. The reason I'm unhappy is because of myself, is because I don't know how to make myself happy. And it's not until women can figure that out and figure out how to manage our internal chaos that we will make it everybody else's problem. And that's what the feminists don't understand. Most feminist women are just unhappy women that don't know how to deal with their internal chaos, and they want to blame the men. Another example of things that feminists say is that men wouldn't let women fight in combat, but women could. Have you ever heard anything so delusional? Instead of women being happy to support the soldiers in any way they could, that was option A. Option B is we could do it. Like imagine going to a job interview and saying, I could do the job. I'm not going to show you, but just know that I could do it. Men would never do that, but women, we're just allowed to get away with this stuff. And the challenge is, so many people are paid off of lying to women. And, people like me, people like Andrew from The Crucible, people like Myron, people like Nick, they get crucified for being honest. Doctors are paid to lie to women. You can't weigh women at doctor's appointments anymore. How many times has a woman had a health issue? And instead of the doctor saying, look, bitch, you're a fat ass. You're fat, and you are going to die of obesity if you don't start losing weight. Did the doctor say instead, oh, we don't know what's causing this? It could be a variety of things. Because they don't want to get sued. They don't want to get in trouble. How many times have men wanted to say, hey, you're actually being crazy towards your ex-husband, and your kids are going to suffer, and you are being a selfish woman leaving your husband? How many men want to say that to their friends, their loved ones, but they can't? Because there is such a big punishment for doing that. The next thing feminists say is that men gate-kept manual labor jobs so women couldn't get hired. Women seriously believe that we could do the infrastructure of society. We believe, what's crazy? I don't even think women could think through it. I think that if women had the strength of men, I think there's just some things that are out of our scope. And building things, I don't think women have that capability as much as men. And if we did, why don't we? If women really wanted to do those things, why don't we do them? Jason Blaze says, super similar to the video of the black guy filming the dancing family, and that guy is just unhappy. That dude is rich. I haven't seen it, but I can look it up. Do you know what he's talking about? The black guy filming the dancing? No? Okay, I don't know. During the fires in Mac, Alberta, I spent some time in a shelter in Calgary while I found a new place. Most of the guys were divorced and DL revoked because of late payments. They are stuck. Yeah, I know. And that's really a hidden crisis in this country. And that's one thing I really want to get enough donations for this documentary where I think we're actually going to get it soon. But really, I have been, in a way, crucified, I had lawsuits thrown at me. I had to fire a bunch of my staff 2 years ago because these women, they called me a pedo and had all these people flag my channel and get me demonetized. Just one angry woman did this. And it's because they don't want the truth to come out. I don't think, and the worst part is women are telling on ourselves. We do go on TikTok and admit to a lot of this. But there are so many homeless men in this country that are homeless because a woman destroyed them and can never recover. And the worst part is men can't even talk about this. I mean, I've been hit with lawsuits from men trying to talk on my platform. And there's never as much money selling to women than selling to men. Men are willing to help anyone willing to learn, and we find pride in passing on knowledge. We don't care about your gender as long as you contribute to society. That is so true. I've met some of the some pretty wealthy individuals in my life, and I'll say most of them, they'll help you if you seem competent and genuinely curious and like you're actually going to learn from them. A lot of them will do it. Eva Braun took advantage of the poor mustache man. I don't know who Eva Braun is. Did they get me to say something? Why would you do this to me? I would not know who that is. You guys are killing me today. And that's really the society we're in. Now, a lot of people say, Pearl, you just are always ragging on women. And you just, can you have a better take than just women are the problem? Now, I will say, because I am on YouTube, that not all women are like this. There are exceptions, but I am speaking in general. When I say women have a lot of power and women can do a lot of damage. And I think you're pretty naive if you don't think women have as much power as we do. Women, you have to be smart as a man. You have to always be 2 steps ahead, because one wrong move with a woman can screw you. I mean, there are men, I spoke to a guy who had 30 years in the military, and a woman accused him of doing something to her in his office. And you know what? If he didn't have a ring camera footage, if he didn't have a recording, he would have lost a 30-year military career. 30 years down the drain for nothing. He would have been. And that's what I mean. Women have that kind of power. Women have the power to get you fired. Women have the power to abort your kid. Women have the power to steal your house. And it's madness. Men have to be so careful. And the good thing about men is men will always figure out a solution. The smartest guy, like they'll figure out a way to be 2 steps ahead of women. Like, for example, I have a friend who's a teacher, and he teaches like instruments. He refuses. He will never be alone with a woman, ever. He will not take that risk. And they do teach that to the men in the schools now. But that's the level of power that we have in society. We have the power to get Trump to give us back TikTok. We have the power to get Trump to be pro-life for our vote. Women, ever since we got the right to vote, we decide elections. The right and the left will tell you that. The media is catered towards women, left and right. There's a reason that the right has porn stars on. It's not, well, I guess maybe it markets to men a little bit. No, marketing to men is not the porn star in a flower dress. It's the porn star naked. Women have the power to falsely accuse men. And, I just think doing the interviews I did, I saw a guy who was a Bollywood actor, and he was literally, he had everything going for him. And his ex-wife destroyed him. I know another guy, he got accused of rape 10 years after the fact. 10 years after, 10 years after and mind you, he had kids with this woman after the alleged grape, lost his kids. I know a guy who his kid died under the care of the mother and she still got custody. Isn't that insane? One of his kids died and after still. The problem is women will never give up power. Will never give it up. More women are becoming judges. More women are becoming politicians. And men have to figure, and there's ways to evade things, right? Like most PUAs are guys that sleep around, they have a Ring camera. There's men that put stuff in their mother's name. But if we're not being honest and realistic about what the situation is, then men will think of solutions. Men, if you give men a problem, they will figure out a way around it. They will. That's the male way. That is. But if we're not honest about the power and influence that even average women have, a lot of men don't see this stuff coming. And, I think I sound like a doomer a lot, right? I think I do. I think I sound sinister. And maybe I am, but I think if you guys had done the interviews that I had done and seen what I have seen, I think you'd be just as black-pilled as me. But on the bright side, men always will find a solution. But this is the world feminists wanted, if I'm being honest. Feminists wanted all of the freedom to be whores and do whatever we wanted and have men pay for it and have none of the responsibility that comes with it. And unfortunately now, to some extent, unless you're a guy to figure out how to get feminism to work for you, I knew a guy in London, I'll give you an example. While some guys are getting robbed, he would just target 32-year-old lawyers, smash, and he would, for a few years, he lived rent-free. And really, he had a decent job, if I'm being honest, but he would just save all the money, and then he found his wife later. Now, I'm not saying that's a moral thing to do, but, that's less of an L than a lot of people take, That's not a bad position. He just got really jacked. He would find these 32-year-old lawyers. He would say, hey, honey, they'd be a little bit fat, but, then he could live rent-free. But it's interesting, whenever a man benefits from feminism or benefits from women's youth, beauty, sexuality, he's always shamed. It's the same reason Leonardo DiCaprio is shamed. He's banging a bunch of hot young women, and then everyone says he's gross, he's disgusting, blah, blah, blah. Cougar hunting season. Well, I'm not saying to do it, but I'm saying I'm not saying it's the moral, and I try to not be moralistic here. I try to be accurate. And there are ways that men figure out how to get it to work for them. There are ways, in the old, and even better in a way that it did before, because in the olden days, you'd have the responsibility of a family. Now, in a way, if you figure out how to do it, you can Uber Eats women and they can leave after. Not many men can pull this off, but I saw a PUA who, he just figured out how to get women to come over and have a bottle of wine, and they'd be hot in their 20s, because in their 30s, women are like, I'm ready to settle down. So they're not down for that. It's just at 20, they're down for that. You know what I mean? And so he gets the youth and beauty that the husbands don't even get someday. And they leave after. He's got no responsibility and he gets the sex. That's even more of a win maybe than the guy, I don't know, free rent. That's pretty good in this economy. He was in London too. You know how much money he saved? Man could buy a house and find his real wife after a few years. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying to do this, right? I'm saying there's men that think about it. But then what happens is the men figure this out. And women and feminists, what they have a tendency to do is shame, insult, guilt. You know, you're not a real man if you do that. Well, but women are celebrated for being complete bums and living off the government. But he's not a real man if he figured out how to be hot enough to get women to pay for him. If he just went old enough and ugly enough, there's always someone. You're not a real man if you put all of your assets in your mother's name and you don't pay child support. You're not a real man. It's like, why does he have to pay? You know, if it's 50, why does he have to pay for his ex-wife to rob him? It just doesn't make sense. But this is the pushback I've gotten the last few years. I mean, this is what feminists have thrown at me. They just keep saying that, you know, it's the men holding us back. But what I would say is that what's holding us back is our internal chaos, our inability to be happy, and our poor life decisions. If feminists want to make really bad life decisions, I don't really care. It doesn't affect me. But I do want you to pay for it. I do. I think that's all I got for you guys today. I think that's all I got. Thanks for the birthday wishes. I didn't even know it was my birthday, but is there another super chat? Hold on. Oh no, it's just this is. Thanks to the Crucible for the raid. I appreciate you guys being there. No, I'm 22. I'm 22. Yep. This was a nice, happy, thank you. If you are interested in doing the documentary, I've been building a remote computing and production studio. We would gladly help on projects. We'd volunteer. Email me. I'm open. You know, we're looking at a few people right now. I'm open to quotes. Right now, I just need to give the people I'm raising money for. The people there's a couple people looking at funding it, and I'm in the process of giving them quotes. I think it's going to work out, but until I have the cash, I can't know for sure. That's one thing I know in this industry. But I do want to put it out on Valentine's Day. I think that would be really funny. I think that would be hilarious. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Bullshit, you're over 40. Maybe I am. Do you know what? Whenever, I always know the women are going to call me old when I go on shows. So my answer is always I'm 42. That's always my answer. Because they're like, well, how old are you, Pearl? And I'm like 42. And then they can't, you know. But thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. Make sure you like the video. No, I'm 22. I'm going to gaslight. I am 22. Yep. Like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.